Next is from Ultimate Macho Rick
Oh
Hogan.
yeah.
Oh my god! Could you
There was a
imagine this
guy.
guy's Twitter handle looks like?
There was a guy in Memphis who came out, and his name was Macho Warrior Rick Hogan, and he did all their movies. He was like a fat guy
Yeah,
in
I
yellow and
think
red.
that's good.
Yeah.
Hugely is a lush. KG the snowflake. Billy is the egomaniac, and now Larry is transitioning into Leslie. Is it because these guys can't handle the roast of the spotlight? What say you, Superior One, Conan and Joe? No, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what Larry. I'd like to get Larry sober on here before we make any more comments about Larry's statements about me on the show last week. So I'd rather have him in a sober. Would you agree that Conan that we should have Larry in a sober
Yeah, save
conversation?
all of these for
Yeah,
him, Joe.
Yeah, I just been
I'm not.
forwarding him, but
Yeah, I'm
I
not.
don't. I don't think Larry's too snowflakey for the show. I think he just had a dead week,
No, I don't. Yeah, Larry.
and it
Larry
came
doesn't
out
come
that
across.
way.
Well, first of all, Snowflake would be a person that would just, you know, be like offended and stuff.
Or
Larry,
like, or
Larry had
quit the
no problem
show and
letting
not
his.
or no
Yeah.
call no show like KG snowflaked us. But Larry, he'll be back this week.
Oh my god, this is a funny one. The subject is here's another one from Unworthy of CM. And this sounds like a Billy Burner account probably. Subject is his YouTube channel. This is Grant from Newcastle again. Hey gang, how long before your YouTube
Didn't we
channel?
just suspend him?
Yeah.
Did we?
Yes.
Yeah,
We did.
it was his. We're double dipping, so we can spend it for 2 weeks. How long before your YouTube channel becomes irrelevant? Billy's YouTube channel is relaunching on Sunday, and once people start to hear the truth that Conan is nothing but a con man, hoping he gets a call from Triple H, the IEW will stop. The IWC will stop listening to you. TikTok gang, TikTok. I actually think this is. I think this is a trolling. I think he's trying to be actually sarcastic here. To be honest with you. So,
but I mean, it's come on,
he's
silliness.
still suspended.
Our Spreaker,
Well,
40%.
let me give you a song
Patreon's over
along the
300.
tick.
Go ahead.
Huh?
No,
Go ahead.
no, just the
Yeah.
Spreaker numbers are up 40%. The Patreon's gone up over 300 subscribers again. And the recent YouTube clips we talked about, one of them did 133,000 views. So
Well, since he likes using the TikTok song, let me give him a little TikTok song, and it's a short one. TikTok, you don't stop. Go ahead.
and actually, someone sent me a
written
screen.
on the spot, Joe. That was right on.
Nailed
Hey,
it.
did I?
Here's
This,
a screenshot somebody sent me, Di. It's from Billy, a tweet, and it says that from now on he's going to do weekly reviews of Raw, and due to that, y'all can cancel K100 and get everything you need from our feed. So I mean, his Raw reviews may siphon some.
Bro, he just lives. We live rent free in his head all the time.
funniest thing is he thinks that we talk.
Yeah.
We talk about him all the time, and like the amount of tweets that he does to compare to like the amount of responses and the amount of time he talks about us on his thing compared to how much we talk is hysterical.
Like rarely do we even respond to that kind of stuff in the emails.
Right.
You know.
Of course. Next is from Mike. Okay, it's interesting. I thought we banned him. Durbin?
No, it was a suspension.
For how long?
It was 2 weeks.
Oh. Mike Durbin, subject is lids. Hi, Glenn and Elmer Feeney. Conan, we've seen you wear lots of different styles of headwear over the years. Maximus helmet, the Heisenberg style in the NWO, newsboy, skull caps, bandanas, baseball caps, etc. Durbin, we just suspended you, and you literally this is your question coming back to the mailbag. Conan, you ready for this hard hitting question?
Okay, let me get the kazoo. Sounds like this is kazoo worthy.
What is your favorite style of hat? And have you ever tried a Charlie Chaplin bowler hat? I think you could pull that off. Next time we're chilling in New Orleans, Memphis, Seattle, Chicago, I know of some really great haberdasheries in each of those cities we can visit and get matching hats. Mike Durbin.
Okay. Let
Can
me
we
explain
start calling him
something to you.
creepy Mike Durbin? Would that be?
Why not? Yeah,
why
because
not,
he's
right?
always with the lights on down low. Looks like he might have some young guys in the back tied up. Let me say this. That wasn't funny. You and I have never and will never chill out in the aforementioned cities. Love using that word. Or be going to any haberdasheries.
Did you enjoy the usage of
this guy-
haberdashery though?
No. Please get him off at least a month.
Oh, see you, Mike. He's
Next one,
got
Spider.
he's got some
Go ahead.
questions for you, Conan. I'll tell you after the show.
Spider
I'm
D.
not answering any of them.
It's
Sub-
regarding
subject-
a bendy figure with the major
Yeah, he
figure.
can after that question, but go ahead.
Next question is
Yeah.
Spider D. Subject is Bad News Brown. Good day from the top of Australia. Fresh off my suspension of a serious question with no stupid jokes. Did either of you ever get to hang out with the late Bad News Brown Allen? A legit cheers, and that's from Dion Spider D. No. Did you ever hang out with Bad News Allen? I never met the guy.
Yeah, top of the morning to you, matey. But no, I never hung out with Bad News Brown.
Yeah, because he would have been gone from Stampede when you were up there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he was gone. I heard a lot of stories, but he wasn't never there when I was there. Yep.
Next is from
He wasn't, I think he might have been in WWE when I first started. But go ahead.
Next is from Armando Ramirez. The subject is question regarding Russo. Hey guys, just heard the bonus segment Larry versus Di. I want to expand on it from my perspective as a 30-year fan. Russo's biggest faults, in my opinion, he claims credit for all the good and none of the bad. He takes credit for the Rock and Austin when those guys never get credit. When these guys never credit him, they credit JR and Michael Hayes respectively. We're going to suspend this guy from the mailbag since it's inaccurate.
Yeah, I've
He
seen
claims-
tweets or heard them on shows where they definitely.
Bro,
come up
they've
with
actually. Vince has done a podcast with Austin a couple times.
Yeah.
where he puts him on. It's ridiculous. He claims responsibility for them. He never did it match or come close. I don't recall him saying me and so came up with this. It's always just him and when he tells it, which is odd. Even his well-known partner Ed Ferrara really gets credit from him publicly. I've often heard people say he was good when he had a filter, which seemed to be the case as his biggest successes were under Vince McMahon or Jeff Jarrett. Thoughts from the three of you. P.S. Would love to expand, but trying to save time. Armando, I've worked with Vince, okay, and I just know I would say this. Effort wise, I don't think I've worked with the guy that put more effort into writing the show than Vince did. Because he literally would not just take if there was two guys, he wouldn't just say, okay, let's just put him in a match. He would try to come up with the story. Problem with Vince was a lot of his stories weren't very good. Okay, some of them were, but the one thing that I don't think anybody could argue with is people that worked for Vince never just went to the show and got just no creative at all. Like if you were in a match, or that would probably lead to the next week or something, which I think was a good quality, which a lot of bookers that I worked for never brought to the table. But Conan, how often was it you would show up to the show and be like, Conan versus Super Callow, 12 minutes. And you'd be like, hey, what's anything going on? It's like, no, just match.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way the writing was before Vince came in. Before Vince came in, then Vince was like, okay, you got vignettes today. You got the filthy ad. We got a lot of vignettes. Or we're trying to build storylines, which Vince was very good at. Now you could knock him for some of the stories were terrible and some were good, but nobody put more effort into writing the show or trying to do stuff with guys than Vince did. And I think that's a weird that he gets criticized so much when ultimately that's all he was really trying to do.
Well, I think
what do you think?
I remember one time we were in a car, and he goes, Conan, what do you think I should do with Rick Steiner? I don't know what to do with him. And I was like, I remember thinking to myself at that time, wow, man, he's just trying to think of something for everybody, and that's very commendable, right?
Right.
Because everybody goes to work wanting to do something.
Right.
I think what happened with Vince this is just from my perspective, obviously, is if a lot of times he kind of was like, well, if you don't do things the way I want to do it, I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home, and then he did a lot. He threw little tantrums if he didn't get his way. And then I also think that, and I like Vince, But I also think once he started to do the podcast and he started going at all these guys like Meltzer and
Oh, of course,
whoever
yeah.
else he goes at, that really got him big time heat. And then when he was like, "Oh, well, I just want to be friends with everybody,"
Kind of
it's too late.
delusional about what are you, bro?
Right.
Come on, it's like you know
Right.
what you're doing,
And it
and you're
almost,
trying to
and
act
it
like
almost
why
feels,
these guys
and
won't
it,
come on my podcast. Like, so,
right. And it
exactly.
almost feels to me, yeah, because we got into a big fight, if you remember, because I called him a mark.
Right.
Because all that Vince Venom, that's
Oh,
Mark to me.
I've had
Yeah.
the thing. I had a very heated conversation with him one time, like when
Right.
we were talking about how. And that, bro, let me tell you something. Nobody really talks about this. A lot of problems Vince had at the very end of his stint in WCW, which is not good, right? Bro, he was suffering from post concussion syndrome from the Goldberg spots and stuff and thinking like,
Right.
so he was not in a good place.
And you
Like,
want to, and you want
right.
to anything? Wait, listen to this. I think I said this, but a long time ago, bro. You want to know the funny thing? When Goldberg, before he went out there, he goes, "Watch what I'm under the Vince." Like he tried
Yeah.
to hurt him.
Right,
Yeah.
and he did. He got
Go
concussion.
ahead.
The funniest thing,
Yeah.
I had a big argument with Vince about this. He didn't like me telling him saying this.
Right.
We were arguing. I was arguing over, so why did you write yourself into the world title thing?
Right.
Like, and he was just
Right.
talking about how, the storyline was going that way, and like he would have like, and then, but like he was talking about like,
It was
he got
going that way because you wrote it
No.
that way.
that was my point. I was like, Vince, you got concussed, okay, because you did not know how to perform wrestling to where you were not trained enough to protect yourself. And he's like, well, yeah, but the storyline. I was like, dude, you were the one that was writing the story. You
Right.
wrote a story to where you would have to participate physically when you could not protect yourself or know how to do it, and you ended up getting hurt. And like I think he kind of like looked at that as like kind of like a self-reflection, I guess. Like I kind of I kind of made him like he didn't like hearing it, but like that was the reality. Dude, you
Right.
ended up getting concussions because you wrote yourself in a story where you physically had to get involved with Goldberg, and Goldberg hurt you
In a
because you
cage.
didn't protect yourself. And I'm like going, I'm like, I can't defend that. It's like, how could you look at anybody like try to defend that because you're the one that was writing the story.
Right.
So that's
Not to mention, didn't he end up winning the belt or something?
right.
Yeah.
And I'm going like, dude, but you're the one. He goes, the story. I'm like, but you're the one that writing the story. You
Right.
keep
It's almost as if he's almost acting like he woke up one day and a story was written for him and you must follow this. Yeah.
right.
Like, you wrote it, dude. You made
Right.
yourself champion.
Right.
You went in and you took that hit, right?
You got
So,
your head
yeah.
hurt. You suffered post concussion, and I'm like, dude, that's my biggest criticism of Vince is that he
Well,
did
it's a
not.
valid one.
It's a valid, but he was not wired to look at it like the from the perspective that I
Well,
presented.
what's his?
Which is
What's
weird,
it? What? Okay. If he wasn't wired back then, what's his excuse now when you're telling him? He should say, "Hey, yeah, you're right."
Well, he doesn't have the sense.
He
But
doesn't have.
He just
You know
wired.
what I feel sometimes? Let me ask you this question because you know him better than me. I almost feel, and I could be totally off base, and if I am, I have no problem. I almost feel sometimes when I read his tweets, and he's always kind of like the victim of everything. Like I think he's mad that he's not in the business writing or in WWE writing again. I think.
Or not remembered as fondly as he thinks he should be.
I honestly,
I agree with that too.
He's older than us. Okay, a little bit
Right.
older than us. I honestly think that he's, it's kind of like me. Okay, maybe like bro, I would kind of like to put wrestling in the mirror. Like I'm
Right.
not in the business anymore, but I have to like,
Right.
we do this podcast. It's entertaining. We have a fan base, and it's like I have to do things that I probably would not be interested in doing. Is like watching Dynamite, watching Raw. I would probably watch SmackDown because I like the, but like I'm having to like contribute to stuff like I watch
But
the
let me
matches.
tell you-
I'm like,
let me tell you,
so I think
I
he's
feel-
more. Go ahead.
I feel the same as you, but I'll tell you what I get out of it. Number one, we get money.
Right.
We've met some cool people on here. Number two, I get to talk about other besides wrestling that I want to talk about, whether it's topical, pop culture, politics, and I get to do it with you, which, we've had a 30-year relationship and we have a good conversation and we can agree or disagree, but we're still cool. You know what I'm saying? And we've built an audience. We have a name in our niche, in our industry, and we built an audience that's still growing, and that's cool.
I think, Disco, you're right about Vince. Maybe he feels like trapped and stuff because with the brand listeners, from what I see, when Vince wants to do other stuff, like he kind of wanted to do like a Howard Stern. He wanted some freaks on the show and different topics and all that in comedy. But when he does stuff like that, whether it's the Paul McCartney conspiracy or whatever, what you really see from the brand subscribers is like they don't want that. They want to hear to build up to turn Rock heel. They want to hear about Raw 98 is what they want. And Vince hates that,
Vince also would probably rather just talk about baseball all the time.
Sure.
He's a huge man, and then he has to do the bro. It's like we have to do wrestling because that's like our fans are not interested in. Well, they are interested, some of our, but like they would just not be interested. Like, Vince Russo, Conan, and Disco, a new politics show.
Right.
You're not gonna like draw. It's like, okay, who gives? But Vince, us doing a SmackDown review, people are probably interested in hearing all the conversation about that, though, right?
Right.
This is an interesting one right here because I just thought of something when I was reading this. Next is from Fat Factor, and the subject is the Io Sky's lack of charisma. Hey, K100 crew.
Is this the same guy again?
No, this is different. This is Fat Factor. I've never heard this Fat Factor. Maybe it's a guy that got Factor meals and he'd come with an email. Hi, K100 crew. The question is a response to the Io Sky discussion last week. I completely agree that her current presentation has no charisma, and also, I think it is a relatively harsh stereotype of Japanese woman that main roster WWE seems fixated on. In NXT, she was over because she was presented more seriously, wasn't dressed like a stereotypical kawaii anime girl that AW marks give themselves carpet burns over, and she could also speak very good English to the point that she could cut a solid promo. Really? I don't. All right, maybe I missed that. With this in mind, it would be fair to say that Io Sky's lack of charisma is yet another example of WWE ruining something they can get over organically, because as usual, Vince Bruce Creative couldn't help leaving their mark on everything. Kind regards, I hope Conan is able to find a kidney donor soon, and that's Jay from London. I just thought of this.
Thank you, Jay.
What if when the Japanese characters all spoke to each other, it was in it was subtitled, okay, and you could, because nobody else, like they're subtitled, like we're reading like what they're saying and everything, but nobody can understand what they're saying to each other because nobody else speaks Japanese. What if they all started working an angle on everybody, and it just came across in their conversations with each other?
Yeah, like if they were plotting against somebody, and that person can't understand what they're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and like you were reading this, but like to make them, when they talk, more interesting. Because when they try to speak English, you're immediately turned off because their English isn't very good. So it's very difficult for these girls to like do a good promo in English when their English is rough. But like if we did a thing where they were like in a corner, like talking to each other, like you had a conversation, I don't know, it'd be more interesting. But like, I just don't think people are interested when these girls speak because their English is bad. And I don't think that's the. Go ahead.
I have to admit that I think we mocked it on the show and kind of made fun of it. But the promo that they did back, I think it was Io Sky, I'm not sure. But the promo they did back and forth with Asuka and somebody at the end, they were yelling at each other in Japanese, and then the other girl just goes. I thought that was good.
Right.
I was entertained by that, but
yeah, but it was kind of like
or not.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the scene from like Stripes. It's like comedy, like like
yeah.
Hey, does anybody know any words that like? You remember that from Stripes?
It was Io Sky. Now that I look
right. So,
well, it says on the letter that if they're ruining her career, how could they be ruining her? They just gave her the belt, didn't they? Or she's got the money in the bank.
Yeah, she's next in line to win the title, maybe.
Right. She just has no charisma.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
Maybe she does, but in English,
I've been watching Damage Control. I've been watching in Damage Control for a while now. She hasn't, but she doesn't have any. So